The Sandman finally came out on Netflix today, and I just watched the very first episode. It's based on the very popular graphic novel by Neil Gaiman. And this is my review and my discussion and my reaction and my first impressions to the very first episode. I only just watched the first episode and I wanted to get out my first initial thoughts. But after this video, I'm going to discuss, I think in the order I'm going to do it, is I'm going to discuss the first 4 episodes, and then I'm going to make another video discussing the second 4 episodes, so episodes 4 through 8, and then I'll probably make one final video discussing the last 2 episodes, because it's a 10 episode series. So if you're at all interested, consider subscribing. But again, this video is just my initial thoughts on the first episode. And also, before I get into it, I've never read the graphic novels. I don't know much about Sandman. I know, like, the basics, and by the basics, I mean I know what this first episode pretty much told me. So this review, this discussion is coming from the point of view of someone who does not really know the source material, who does not really have any expectations in terms of the adaptation. But this is coming from someone who does appreciate Neil Gaiman's novels and has read a couple of them. And also there's going to be some spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched it, I do recommend you actually go and watch the first episode, then you come back and watch this. Anyway, my first impressions, my first reaction to the very first episode is positive, with only a couple negatives. But overall, I really like this world, especially. This world that they're setting up is really cool. It's low fantasy, so it does take place in Earth, or on Earth, I mean, but obviously with some fantastical elements. But then there's this otherworldly realm that the Eater of Dreams, as he's referred to, I believe Morpheus is his technical name, where he's from. And at the very end of this episode, he finally goes back there, and just seeing this sweeping vista decaying and crumbling, it just gives a fantasy nerd like me, someone who loves fantasy, it just gives me pretty much everything I want when it comes to a fantasy story. Just this world that's so foreign and unreal to us as, you know, real humans, and just being able to explore it and learn all about it. And Morpheus as a character, based on this first episode, is really cool. He's portrayed by, I forgot his name, hang on, I have it up. Tom Sturridge, I believe is how you pronounce his name. A very subtle yet really good performance. He does not have much dialogue in this first episode. He does narrate a couple things, but in the actual scenes he's in with other people, barely, very rarely talks. But he gives such a good performance just with facial expressions. Like, it's really intriguing, and I'm really curious to see how this character goes, because I don't know much about Morpheus. I don't really know who he is. I know he's referred to as the Eater of Dreams. He's like in charge of sleep and dreams and nightmares, and it's just really cool, but I don't think he's a benevolent being. You know what I mean? He's in a position of power over the world, but I don't think that he as a character, like I just said, is benevolent. I think he is a very flawed character based on this first episode, which just makes him so much more interesting of a character and makes me so excited to see where he goes next. Like, he is capable of making flaws. He's not like this god where every single thing he does is like how it should be done. You know what I mean? In terms of like other fantasy stories. And I really like that. Like, the episode begins with, which is kind of weird, a nightmare that he created escapes into the real world, our world, and he has to hunt him down and, you know, stop him from tormenting people. And it's just kind of funny that he somehow allowed this guy to escape, this nightmare to escape, or I'm sure they'll probably dive into how he escaped, but it's just cool knowing that he's not all powerful, Morpheus. However, one of my flaws with this first episode, and it could change because this TV show, I did look it up, it has multiple directors going through it, so it might not be the tone overall, but it does kind of feel, and I know this term is overused, kind of like how saying Soulsborne, or Souls-like, I mean, is overused in the video game world. Like, whenever a video game is slightly difficult, people say it's Souls-like. So I feel like this term is kind of that equivalent for TV shows, but it's kind of true, is at times it feels kind of CW-esque. It feels kind of like I'm watching a CW show in terms of tone and atmosphere and just some of the acting and dialogue at times, which I'm personally not a fan of, though I know a lot of people are. However, that's counterbalanced with just the production value and the effort that's actually put into this show. Like, the special effects, the CGI, the world is like, it rivals some movies, and it's really cool. And again, the plot, despite that, and the characters are really interesting, and it's really making me excited to watch the next episode. You know what I mean? It's not like the CW-esque elements is turning me off from it. It's that everything else is so good that, like, I don't mind. One other complaint is the editing. I don't really enjoy the editing of this show just based off the first episode. It's kind of edited, in my opinion, like a trailer, like a movie trailer you'd watch on YouTube. The way that it cuts, the way that the scenes are spliced together, it feels, and it gives me the vibes of a trailer. When, like, just the tone and the atmosphere of this show, I would like a bit more subtlety. I would like a bit more slower transitions, a bit more lingering on characters, a bit more living in the moment. But overall, those two flaws that I have could change with the next episode, or I could forget it, or in the grand scheme of the whole show, it could make more sense. But again, this is just my impressions based on the first episode, but everything that I like about it far outweighs what I don't. Also, Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones is in it, and that's really, really cool. I really like his character, and it's so haunting, the story. Just this first episode is almost like a prologue. This first episode is just setting the stage for what the story is to come, and I believe. And it's just really, again, haunting for everyone involved because they capture Morpheus. And then, according to Morpheus, a century goes by, which is a question that I had. Like, how does a century go by, but the sun is, like, still alive and well? That means he's, like, over 100 years old by the time Morpheus escapes. But either way, it's just haunting and like, depressing knowing that almost everyone in that scenario is a prisoner. Obviously, Morpheus more than most people, but then Tywin's character is, like, his son is almost like a prisoner to everything. He's just trying to please his dad, and his dad wants nothing to do with him. Meanwhile, everyone around them is just forced to watch Morpheus for centuries and centuries and centuries, and it's just a depressing vibe, but I love it. Anyway, that's my quick thoughts on the very first episode of The Sandman. Again, consider subscribing if you want to hear my opinions and my thoughts going forward. The next video that I'm going to do is discussing the first 4 episodes probably, and then the video after that is going to be the 4 after that, and then I'll probably do a video on the last 2. Unless I binge watch it really fast, then I'll probably just do 5 and 5. But either way, I am going to talk about the whole series, so consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you thought about what you've seen of the show so far. But please don't spoil anything for me. Anyway, thank you for watching.